Stereo fans, here's what's on the bench. I've had this one a little over a week. This is a Yamaha CA-410. See, it's a very rare version actually. This was a Canada only version, so it was marketed as the CA-44, and the main reason is the black aluminum faceplate. And back in 1977, I wanted one of these. I had researched it, had gone in and listened to the CA-410, to the 510, to the 610, and I wanted to, buy my own stereo. I'd been using, different components I've got together. I was using my dad's stuff. This one seemed to be in the right price point. I remember it was about $379 in those days, which is like, I don't know what now, $1,500 now. I had a part-time job, and they had one with a black faceplate, and that was rare. Mid 70s, most of the gear was still silver faced with the odd black face component like early Kenwood, early Nico. When I actually got the money to go and buy it, they didn't have the black one left. They were sold out, so I got a silver one. But anyway, this one came up on local Kijiji. I've been in the same family for decades, and it was actually nearby, like a 5-minute drive from here. And the guy just said, well, it worked pretty good years ago, but one channel is really low. It doesn't sound that great. Well, that's what happens. These are now 40 years old, coming up on 50. And take a look inside. Kind of a neat design. Actually, the case is bigger than it needed to be with a lot of these. What I basically did is I tested this one. The left channel was barely audible. If you put a signal into it, you had to turn it up like 4/5 of the way to even hear it in the headphones. The right channel is coming through, but not very loud, no bass, a lot of crackling. Well, where do you start? Maybe there's a few bad caps. No, you recap the whole thing because it's the infamous blue capacitors. These are Nishikons. I don't know what it was about these. They slowly over time went open. The main filters were Nippon Chemcon. These were fine, tested great, but I did put 2 new ones in anyway. Up the voltage a little bit. But basically, I don't know if you can see this, that's capacitors and transistors. And here we get to part 2, and this is what happens after 40 years. Wasn't an issue back in the day. Every signal, trying to get a couple of these out to show you here, every single signal transistor had black oxidized leads. Every single one. And some people say, well, that's not a big deal, you can take the tarnish off. No, it actually affects the operation of the transistor. It does get into it. I've cracked a few of these open. It goes right into the connection inside where it's bonded. And this wasn't a problem back in the day. The idea was the transistors would last forever. Well, no, they didn't. They oxidized. Basically, I ended up changing every signal transistor in it except for the outputs. And I'll just show you, wind it around again so you can see the phono stage. So the phono stage is tucked in over here, right up against the phono jacks, and the switches for record out and input are here. Great idea, keep the signal path short. And then use these loose wires to pick up noise, getting it to the main board. Not 100% sure what they were thinking there. But all the caps, transistors changed there. Another thing, there's a board in here called the PC limiter board, part of the protection. Oh, I gotta tell you about the toothpicks too. You see where I had to solder this joint in here and fix it up? Well, version 1, it's the CA-400 and 410. Version 1 didn't have this limiter circuit. Turned them up too high, they quickly went to basically a DC square wave, blew the outputs. Back in the day, back in the 80s when I was a bench tech, these were coming in because people wanted to, they're about 10 years old at the time, and people bringing them, I'd like to get this working. It would be blown outputs. And there's basically, could possibly be too much signal drive, it clips, it blows the outputs. There's a speaker protection relay here, it's an Omron, and when I first turned this on, I was waiting for the click. No click. I look into it, okay? Take the lid off. Oh, it's been off before. The seal's broken. There's 2 toothpicks wedging the relay closed. I'm like, why? Like, what for? Are the contacts bad? I look at the contacts, they look like brand new. The contacts were very good in these Omron relays. But there's a little 10 ohm resistor here. Quarter watt resistor. And it was not pushed right in the hole and soldered properly. It was a cold solder joint. That's what the problem was. I'm telling you, half an inch away from the relay. So I took the old resistor out, put a new one in, put it in, started right up, got rid of the toothpick. So there's nothing wrong with this relay. That was somebody's fix for it. But basically, all this relay is a time delay. The DC sensing and shutdown is on this board that was added. And in the CA-410 too, so there's really 3, possibly 4 versions of this. So there was this black version, the 44, which was just basically a CA-410 with a limiter board added. Then there's the CA-410-2, and there's an II on the faceplate. This limiter board was they did a new main circuit board. It's a little wider. It's on the circuit board. So it's part of the design. They knew that they had an overdrive issue that would blow the outputs. Okay, then there's really the CA-510 is a 410-2. But when it came out, and it was like a year later, 77, 78, it came out and some of them had the limiter board and some didn't. It must be what they had left over from the factory. But anyway, after 40 some years, this is what you have to do. So basically, and I put banana jacks on here, every transistor except the outputs were fine. Actually, I don't think they're the original set. They've been replaced. But they tested fine. New caps all the way through. Fixed up some of the soldering. New signal transistors. Oh, and the dial lights. Just want to mention, there's a lot on the internet about these dial lights. Right here on the 2 meters. Let's go plug it in and turn it on so you can see them. There they go. They come on. Oh, relay just clicked. You can see them lit. I use incandescent bulbs. The way these are in the faceplate, if you put an LED in the same place, you end up with a spot of light. Not a nice wide soft light. And here's how you can tell this is an earlier one. It had like how can I put it, yellow lighting. So there's no shield on the bulb. The 410-2 in silver and the 510 had a little green lens on the bulb and they lit up green. So there's a difference there. Oh, and there's a little LED here from the factory for the power. So anyway, once I get it up and running, well, it is up and running, but set up, maybe we'll do another video. Thanks for watching and listening.